I try to. Oh, we have said so much. Oh, I am
That's all.
also. I'm
We're
recording it in audio on a device as well.
gonna say
So
a
we
whole
have what?
lot.
Yes.
Say a whole lot moving forward. So the first
Yes.
part of um the first part of your conversation that I heard was about the racism part. And the one thing that I kind of want to dispel is that we're not one of those organizations that's just, searching for quote unquote races.
Yes.
Um, I think that, there's a certain sense of politics that has kind of turned into that watchdog racism politic, kind of like watch group or think tanks, right? That have kind of
Mm.
emerged in this, BLM George Floyd moment. And that's not what Urban Indian Heritage Society is at all. You
Yeah.
also brought up critical race theory, that's being touted and that's being propped up as an ideological talking point to get us to
Yeah.
dream by certain black bourgeois
Yes.
and you know Israeli aligned organizations, right? Um,
Yes.
with CRT, you know, I think we at Urban Indian Heritage Society have had to take a step back and really analyze, well, what are the pros and cons to this? And the one pro that, that I think we have agreed on in terms of, very common denominator understandings is that some of this theory that's rooted in critical race, which we know comes out of critical legal studies, right?
Yes.
We
Yes.
understand that those historical philosophical underpinnings, right? And at the same time, it's not it's not, you know, subject, it is very subject to critique because a lot of the folks that are unpacked it in critical race theory have American Indian roots. For instance,
Yes.
Luther King. We
Yes.
know that Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King, and a lot of folks, the Indian civil rights struggle of the 50s and 60s, which brought forth 1968's Indian Civil Rights Act. We know that a lot of those, histories and epistemologies that are being couched as critical race theory are actually incorrect because they're given a false narrative that these folks have ancestry from Africa when they are homegrown here along with their grandparents and great grandparents and great great grandparents are born here in America. And genealogy, which is, a science, it is a qualitative research methodology. We've come to, do genealogy and our specific own recipe of genealogy that we've crafted as a methodological type. We've done that and we've been able to pinpoint that some of these folks that are being touted through critical race theory are actually not African American, which is why, we don't specifically just look at the cons from this CRT argument. We also look at, the pros as well. Um,
Wow.
being
This is deep. We're gonna, guys, welcome to another episode of the NeoLiberal podcast. We are in audio podcast and we are in video. And guess what we have today? We have an amazing show lined up for you. We've been talking with Dr. Nolan Fontaine, my fraternal brother, my line ADP, and he's here with us. And we're happy to have you dropping knowledge. And I say to you, because of the knowledge, people perish. Right? And that's true. And guess what? They love when you don't have knowledge. but you're gonna drop knowledge, and and by the way, he's an academic. He is no ordinary guy. He is an extraordinary academic, a thinker himself. And he has a doctorate from the University of, I'm usually get it right, Ontario or Toronto?
Toronto.
Toronto! I'm always getting it. It's two different places. He's here with us, and he is the president of the and he corrected me yesterday. It's the Urban Indian Heritage Society, and we're going to talk to him a little bit some more about what they're about and their efforts to stop the misclassification of American Indians. urban Indians, the misclassification, and their efforts to restore, to provide restitution and restoration. Not just to restore identity, but also the restitution part. Once you have restored identity, then you can talk about, and that's going to be a problem, an uphill task. People don't like to give back money, just so you know. People
getting results already, brother.
And with him is Phoenix Moon. I don't know if that's Phoenix Moon is the vice president, and she was just dropping knowledge. And we don't have it on the video, but we have it on the audio podcast because she was speaking what we were talking about.
Founder of Urban Indian Heritage Society. I would be remiss if I did not say that.
Say it again, please, so that others can hear.
Phoenix Moon is the vice president and founder of Urban Indian Heritage Society, founded in 2020.
Founded in 2020. Hello?
Yes, indeed. Yes, in 2020.
Okay, great. I want to know about, how you got started, why you started this organization. I have an idea, but for the viewers and people who are going to be learning about you guys, how you started, why you started, and we were talking a little bit about it. But let me introduce you guys officially again by saying that we are here with the Urban Indian Society. Urban Indian Society is seeking to set the record straight about our family's history and right to participate in the process of our own restitution and restoration. Hence, they have organized a petition for the passage of the American Indian Inclusion Act. And you can get involved by going to UIHS.org. Let me get it correctly. It is the Urban Indian Heritage Society.org. Again, it is the Urban Indian Heritage Society.org. And once you visit the website, you will see the petition that it says you have an Indian in your family. And it says, what is misclassification? Misclassification in this context is the changing of the racial or social status from one category to that of another. American Indians were intruded upon, enslaved in their own land, then repeatedly harassed by a force and or official US policies. And we have experienced being called as many as 5 different names as a group within the past century. We're going to talk to them about that today. The Urban Indian Heritage Society is a charitable organization originally founded to research, document, and preserve the history and culture of disenfranchised American Indian lineal descendants. Now, the Urban Indian Heritage Society advocates for the curation, preservation, and maintenance of ancestral lands, as well as the appropriate renaming of historical sites. And of course, and so they are here with us, and we are happy to have them. Welcome again.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so now, how did you get started? How did you, Phoenix Moon, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you get started and why you started this organization, founded this organization.
Well, I knew that politically and civically things had to change, and we've never had a voice. Dr. Fontaine and I had many discussions regarding political prowess and representation. We've been denied a lot of the Bill of Rights, if you think about it, because we've had taxation without representation. You look at what the designation of race means here in the United States, and it means something completely different from what we're taught and what we feel that they represent. For instance, the word race. If you look at the legal definition for the word race, it talks about your tribe, your family, who you come from. It doesn't have anything to do with prejudice or bias, right? I don't like them because they're this, or I don't like her because she's that. Prejudice or bias, completely different. So racism, there's nothing wrong with you thinking that your family is the best on the planet in a global competition in commerce and wealth and health. Right? And protecting your posterity. Everybody else in the world is doing it. Well, somehow, coming to the realization that not only have we not had any representation, we've been able to pinpoint how they've been able to carry this out. And they were able to do it by changing our race in the categories of the census. So now if there's no Indians in the state of Virginia, the Indians have no voice. They called us Black, colored, white, mulatto, Negro, everything but Indian.
Yes. This
A
is
lot of
quite.
our people are attached to treaties. And we have the study of your families. It's not any manipulated science like DNA or anything else that they presented, because there's one thing that they can't do, and that's change who you're related to. No one or nothing is going to change your mother and father. Doesn't matter if they are living or if they have passed on, they're still yours and unique to you. And your mother and father have parents also. You have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, 32 third-great-grandparents.
Okay.
And it doubles every generation.
I have a question. I sorry to interject. So you talk about Indian heritage. What about those who are saying, well, do you discount an African heritage for those persons who claim that, or do you believe that all people are often American Indian heritage?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
you can't discount any heritage, not just African. There's Jewish ancestry, there's all different sorts of ancestry. But being able to pinpoint exactly who and what they are, find out where their graves are, and be able to give them a name, it's a completely different thing. We've heard about, your 5th great-grandparents. Well, isn't it nice to know who they are? Because what happens is we end up creating substitutes and give a lot of energy and romanticism with substitutes. I'll give you a perfect example. Me being an American Indian, I've never had a dashiki or a Nefertiti piece, right? Nothing against Nefertiti, but I have no relativity to her. Why would I honor her and discount who I am actually related to?
Yes.
That's what things like that do. I don't think, that everybody has intentionally done that, but I know it's discounted myself. I'm related to Pocahontas. I should have something along those lines instead of culturally appropriating, because I don't know how to fill in the blanks. And then it gives you a way to not have to take these grand stories that they told you and actually be able to insert yourself in the narrative. You'd be surprised what it is. The people that they say come from nothing really own everything.
Yes. So tell me about how you got started, and what were you reading? What were you doing? What epiphany that led to this?
Well, after a conversation with my grandparents between 12 and 15, I've always went to the library before Ancestry.com. Before Mormons put Family Search with the National Archives online. I've always looked at census records. I started off with my 3rd great-grandparents. I used to sit at my grandmother's feet. She lived into her 90s. Her sisters did, her siblings did too. My grandfather spent a lot of time with them. As I said, I got a lot of their information. I was the kid that asked them 1,001 questions. Where did you live when you were 10? Who were your grandparents? Tell me about them. I always asked questions. Academically, once I was able to, put up a barrier just to accept the lesson, but not take it to heart because I knew it wasn't true, just enough so, I would excel and stuff like that, but I knew not to take it to heart. After a while, you begin to suffer, especially in the collegiate realm, because it's not like you're bucking up against the academia, but you can't insert yourself in a narrative. So I've always had this disconnect. Who are these rights for? Right? Why would I think? And then on the flip side, they teach people of color that you have no rights, which simply isn't true. So knowing the history and law, they go together. They are married and can't be separated. Well, knowing the history is being able to know your own history and who you are related to. It makes a difference that they never thought we were going to dig into, specifically because they presented these things that we should read, these things that we should study in these places. And then in addition to that, you watch how these places change right before our eyes, right? If you look at, for example, Zaire, if Muhammad Ali didn't fight in Zaire or people didn't name their children Zaire, you would never know the country existed. People went to sleep and woke up in 3 other places.
Yes.
Imaginary borderlines. Well, who are the families? They might be living in the same spot they were living in for 500 years. But because the county lines changed, the city lines changed, the state lines changed, the country lines changed.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the relativity?
Yes. Oh wow, this is powerful. So then you started, and Nolan, how did you get involved with how did you get involved with the UIHS?
Well, I think one of the things that kind
Or
of
should I say, sorry, my apologies, Dr. Fontaine.
is good. One of the things that kind of piqued my interest in UIHS is I was conducting my own family genealogy during the time I was going through my doctoral program. I always felt, a kind of uneasiness when I was at Howard, not because of not just because of the program, but because of the space. I didn't really realize until I left that the sociology and anthropology department, there were remains and, skeletons and things of that nature. So, on the sociological side, it piqued me to understand, like, why was there such a vast catalog of, human remains and skeletons inside the actual department, but, simultaneously doing, like, my own family tree and understanding of, the different, lines and different grandparents and collateral lines and I think it was just kind of the Great Spirit that just so happened to connect me, on YouTube with our other colleague, Tasha Shee and Phoenix Moon. So I became acquainted with their online catalog, their online library of different genealogical American Indian and even socio-political topics that I've never really heard couched that way, looked at philosophically that way. So, they really challenged my thinking in terms of, being a political scientist, in terms of a sociologist. And, I'm not necessarily a political purist, and I'm definitely not one of those doctors that, maybe when I was a kid, but, knowing that you don't know it all, that's half the battle. So, having, solid folks like Phoenix, like Tasha, like, some of our other colleagues of UIHS around me kind of began that transformation even before 2020. I think the one book, because you begin to ask, like, what kind of guides us in terms of, our reading.
I was about to ask that question, yes, in terms of your reading, your research, your methods.
Well, two books, two documents, I think. Three. Let's say, for me, one book was called "The Forgotten Cause of the Civil War." It was written by Dr. Lawrence Tenzer. If you have a free chance, look it up to see what the price is. At the time when I was searching for it in 2018, there were only 3 copies at the University of Toronto. Now, for context for your readers, or for your viewers or listening audience, next to the Library of Congress and Harvard's library, University of Toronto's library is the 3rd largest library in North America. Just to give context of how big our library system is, not even, but it's big, y'all. We had 3 versions of this book. They were all taken and they did not know where they were going. This book cost at the time when I was looking for it about $1,200 Canadian, probably about $1,000 American. But since then, I think it's gone up. And
wait, hold up. Why is this book so expensive? $1,000?
Yes, it gives the socio-historical context of the conditions in America right at the end of the antebellum period in 1860, when Stephen Douglas was facing off with Abraham Lincoln, and basically there are two political models out of both camps, which would be the RNC and the DNC. What Douglas is, well, we really can't distinguish on the basis of skin complexion or texture who is free and who is a slave, because you had folks that kind of occupied both areas. Think of folks like Drake or Steph Curry, Aisha Curry, and Riley Curry. Folks that kind of occupied those aspects of Q, where it's like, wow, like they could kind of, what we would call, or what my folks would call it, they could kind of pass. Even Douglas' socio-political strategy was, well, if they don't own land, under assumption of law, we would just classify them as a slave. To most people,
this is powerful.
That caused the outrage. And Lincoln was like, well, if you elect me, I won't do that. And that's how Abraham Lincoln became elected. And within the book, Penzer gives, multitudes of pictorial examples where, there were what looks to be, what we call fresh face, or, presumably white, which, folks would say, folks as, indentured servants and slaves. And he also, his hypothesis also supports that there were more, folks that looked that complexion, who were fresh-faced, who were in bondage or indentured servitude at the start of the war in 1860 than there were American Indians, folks who were considered Guineas, folks who were considered African but may have been French Huguenots, some folks that were African. The Iberian Peninsula was about 90 minutes away from the coast of North Africa. So all these folks that we've been kind of reprogrammed to think about, where they are on the map, were all, caught up in this as well. And of course, not to the over exaggeration of millions and billions that they have presupposed years ago. The other two documents that kind of guide me are the U.S. Constitution and specific treaty law, specific treaties that I just so happen to be reading that week.
And those, and doing your research, what kind of conclusion did it settle in your mind, or did it lead you? What conclusion did you take away from these that now caused you to want to promote awareness around this, and to join the Phoenix Moon on this effort?
Very simple. The obscuring and the continued misclassification of the American Indian is the biggest conspiracy that will be the biggest RICO case in American history. Bigger than any big pharma. This will be the biggest case in American history once we get to where we need to be in terms of, setting things up, getting to DC with the American Indian Inclusion Act. And that will be a part of the restitution.
And let's talk about this with you, and this is very important. We don't have a lot of time. Guys, we want to do a regular show with this is deep, this is powerful, this is profound. I am loving this. This is amazing. But we don't have much time. But I would love to hear, probably another 30 minutes, maybe, I don't know. But tell me a little bit about this effort, this misclassification, and why do you think there has been a misclassification, and why do you think there was a misclassification, and let's talk about that. How did you come to that conclusion in terms of the misclassification? I don't know who wants to take it up. Phoenix. We just heard from Noel and Phoenix. Why do you think that there is a misclassification, and where did you get and is there a strategy behind it, and so on, and how did you get that information, or why did you think there's a misclassification?
Yes. Well, according to the U.S. Constitution, back in 2018, I was invited to sit with the United States Department of Commerce, which conducts the U.S. Census. So for the 2020 census, how do you get the misclassified people to identify themselves properly so that they are now counted? We know that in the Constitution, the representation without taxation, we've had no political representation. So this is why they have purposely changed our designations so that we didn't have the voice. In addition to other people that have claimed to have been representatives, such as William McIntosh, and has signed treaties on behalf of people that we are directly related to. Right.
Yeah.
So this is how, when they create these different states, you have someone that says they come from Alabama. Alabama didn't exist until 1819. Right.
Mm.
So when they create this state and Alabama is now a part of the United States, what happened to the people that were in their private capacity? They became absorbed. And if not, they were fighting for citizenship in order to be able to enjoy the rights of a citizen of the state of Georgia, of a citizen of the state of Alabama, in addition to the dual citizenship of having federal benefits, right, and protections as a U.S. citizen. So there were people that were denied citizenship based on their race. So they purposely did that. So now if you're saying that, if there's for instance, I'm a Pamunkey and Chickahominy and Cherokee Indian, right?
Say that again.
Pamunkey, Chickahominy, Cherokee. So my family, my mother, her siblings, all of my cousins, my children, all of our kids, we identified as our race, our ethnicity, right? Our race is American Indian. Our ethnicities are Pamunkey, Chickahominy, etc. So we were actually able to list that. We haven't been able to do that in years. So no, we're not federally recognized, but there's more than 50 of us within a 100-mile radius, right? And we're all going to be listed when they make that viewable to our descendants, because we'll be long dead after they see the 2020 census becomes available, which they only release every 72 years.
Yes. And it's I wrote an article, and it's in LinkedIn, the NeoLiberal commentary on LinkedIn, it's in the NeoLiberal journals. I said the 2020 census was unrepresentative of the U.S. population, and people can see why I won't talk about that now, but I agree with you. The issue of in terms of the identity, but it is powerful what you have just said. So now that you have established that the issue of the problem that people have to identify, but Nolan, your response to the question in terms of okay, what are the efforts now to recapture, to provide awareness, and what are you guys doing to change this classification? Tell me a little bit about the petition and other efforts that you are doing. Nolan, are you still there? I think he stepped away.
No, I'm here.
Okay, Nolan. Yes, go ahead.
I think some of the things that you kind of outlined in terms of the events that we are spearheading. For instance, the maternal genealogy event. I always loved my mama was one of the, standout events from this year, right?
Yes.
Where we kind of were able to walk people through, just very intro, basic level genealogy, how you can start with either your family or, start with children, right? To where you can begin documenting, that first, second, third, and if possible, that fourth line of grandparents. And then from there, you're able to kind of go and delve deeper on your family roots and be able to pinpoint at that specific aspect of American history what you and your family were doing. So when these specific blanket narratives, that sometimes arise through what some folks would say critical race theory, or some folks would say different, philosophical, worldviews. But the American Indian worldview that we try to keep front and center for folks that, do have American Indian lineage is always, what was your specific family doing at that time? So, for instance, I have on my maternal side, I have a great grandfather that, although he was free after the beginning of the Civil War, he did get caught up in indenture in Maryland, and
Ah,
somehow he was able to get out or pay off. And you know what he did after 1863?
what did he do?
He moved to West Virginia.
Wow.
And current day West Virginia, in my head, I'm like, wow, why would he go to West Virginia? Well, we know now, from working with folks in Urban Indian Heritage Society and, just from being a historian, political scientist, we know that West Virginia was a free Union state.
It was, yes.
So he camped out there until 1865. And how do we know this? From primary data points, from military records,
Yes.
through state census data, through decennial census data from, the federal government and things of that nature. And we saw that him and my grandmom and my uncles and aunties, they moved back in 1865, right? And, the Tidewater area where they came from.
Yes, yes.
So
No, what
that
I mean,
genealogy
sorry,
part is key.
this is
And
quite
we have as I said, we have a specific form of genealogy that we have developed. And Phoenix, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit more about that, about the family forensic ethnicity audit.
oh, you guys do that as well because
Yes.
everybody used to go through genealogy.com and then they'll give you I understand that there was an issue with genealogy.com. The owner, I think they have discredited that site or I might be wrong. I'm going to do my research, but they have discredited a particular organization that used to track people, saying that it was erroneous. But there are people who would go to certain groups that misclassify. But you have your own forensic or your audit that people can apply or go to your organization.
Yes, they can. And like I said, I've been doing this over 30 years. So I've seen them all, searching for all of these things that they said occurred, but I can debunk it with my own family. So it became in probably 2002 or 2003 when Ancestry came, and you had access to, I think that was the 1920 census at that time. Either 1920 or 1930 census became available. And I would do it for my friends, my coworkers, no particular people. It was something that I've always done, and now it's digitized. And it was awesome. I didn't even realize that I was contributing. I used to do volunteer work with historical societies and didn't realize that I was contributing. That was the project that I had worked on that contributed to people being able to making the 1930 census available for people to now view from, computer and membership, of course, with Ancestry and the National Archives. So being able to see what they didn't say about us was how I was able to develop a formula. We have a formula. What is it that they didn't say? These documents list you in all these different things, but who is the family? You look at the collateral lines, the military engagements with the men, and they always said that there was no records. So I got to see a little bit of everybody that's here. I can look at people's last names and ask a couple of questions, and I'm going to know how long your people were where they're at. I also know that there's people that look like us, right? But they're not related to us at all. And they are there. And they are related to the other people that oppress us. And it's not about skin color. It's about bloodline. Right? And I think that they tried to make it about skin color. And people have to choose between black and white when you're really supposed to be what your family is. What is your mother? Right? Whatever your mother is, with the exception of maybe Islamic countries where they go by patriarchy. But the rest of the world, everything, land, air, water, boats, everything is named after a female entity, right? And there's really no way around it. One thing, we all have the same creation story, that we came from our parents, and whatever they did at whatever perfect timing is the gimme that got us here. There's no science in between that can ever manipulate it.
Oh, this is powerful, and we're gonna find out how people can apply or get a hold of you guys in terms of so that they can do and they can get they can apply for this service and get access to this service. Now,
It's not an easy thing either. You kind of have the stomach for it, because there's a lot of things that families don't talk about. There's
yeah,
a lot of things that families have traumatized over generationally, and you don't even know. So you kind of peeking into the past that they didn't tell you about, and it could be very difficult to
yes,
accept, right? But the truth really does set you free. There's land, there's all sorts of things that people have, and they're out here struggling, thinking they don't own anything. And it's so unfair to rob somebody's heritage. Your culture can change, and that could be subject to you moving to another city or another county. In New York, we order sandwiches. We may call them subs, but they're heroes. You go to Connecticut, they call them grinders. They still mean sub, but it's called something else. The culture can change, right? But they're all
yes,
sandwiches. So what I mean by that is the people don't change. Your heritage is constant. It's never going to change. Even with admixture and all these different things and different flavors
yeah.
that actually what you're comprised of, that's all fine and well, but you need to know what they are, right?
Yes, this is powerful. Thank you. And let me find out. Let me ask you a question. What has been the response um, from local, regular people in society? And what about and do you have partnership, any buy-in from other nonprofit organizations, academics, colleges, institutions, any political figures? Is there any buy-in? And I know that in LA there was a senator that was trying to do something to that effect. I think, oh, Nolan, you were telling me about the politician that was running, and she was for the change. Tell me a little bit about the buy-in. What has been the buy-in? What has been the support?
I think that was Miss Noreen we were discussing down in
Yes,
not so much Los Angeles, but in Louisiana.
Louisiana. Yes.
Yeah. So Miss Noreen is has announced her run. So in terms of the buy-in on the political aspect, there is a partnering organization that we work with, which is called AIPP, and that is the American Indian Political Party.
Uh-huh. Sorry, I'm going to give a little joke. I thought you were about to say artificial intelligence.
Oh,
And I was gonna say, I hope you guys do some AI patent your stuff with some AI, the forensic thing that you know use AI tax artificial intelligence using the tax AI software. But now you can, in terms of genealogy, how one of the ways of recapturing is now having a patent for AI. But that's for something you can talk about in the future. But I apologize for interjecting. Continue, sir.
mm-hmm. So we work with them closely just to develop um kind of like a political plan, landscape of what things are looking like, state by state, or
Okay.
territory to territory. We really try to refer to certain aspects of the land by the respective Indian tribe that was there. So you may hear us from time to time not refer to Philadelphia as Philadelphia. It's actually Lenape-Haken. So
Well, say it again, Lenape-Haken.
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 Mm-hmm. So there are different areas and aspects of Philadelphia so that are actually Indian derived. So certain street names like Topahaken or Passyunk or Wingle-Haken or even Indian Queen Lane. you know,
Ah,
some
yes. Oh, wow. Thank you. It's just occurring to me that those are Indian names. Those
absolutely.
are Indian names.
Susquehanna and Dauphin. We can go on and on. So AIPP is very good in terms of understanding the human ecology, the sociology, the political underpinnings that we need to be aware of in Urban Indian Heritage Society, as well as identifying pro-American, pro-First American first, which we like to
Yes.
call our candidates, who are not only pro-America, but pro American Indian, the first Americans.
Yes. But what about people who say, well, you know what? The Europeans won the war in a sense. Okay, if life is about competition, and I mean, I'm just the people who have that argument. Life is about competition, and many years ago, the Indians lost. The Indians couldn't fight back, so the Anglo-Saxons won, so to speak. The Anglo-Saxon, the reason why the world is the way it is today, and the reason why it won't change is because they won the war. The Anglo-Saxons won, the Europeans won, whatever the case might be, they won the war. So why is it now, suddenly, all of a sudden, these people want to resetting it if they want to become relevant again? So what about people there are those who have that argument? There are those who have that argument. I met a guy who argued that point. What do you say to people who might be saying that?
I would say that they should probably check the etymology on some of these words, right? When you look at the Nationality Act of 1790 here in America, you look at the Nationality Act in 1870, and Anglos are actually people that have had their own war amongst each other, and that's where the black and white issue has come about throughout the whole world. That still started in Europe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you look at Anglos, they were the last people to be added as free white people. So that means if they had to have a category of free white people, there were some pale people that were not free. Right.
Yes.
Who are those people? So there can be a man from Europe and he's listed as white and he's dark as Wesley Snipes. And then there could be a black man that looks just like Donald Trump and he's a slave. So what's an Anglo? They're different, and the Saxons were a family. They have a crest. Yeah. There's the bloodline hidden right through their titles. So what they did was, and if you want to go deep, you look at the etymology of the word Africa. Before they called the continent Africa, it was a tiny place, no bigger than the state of Delaware. I have a picture. I could drop it in the chat. This map is from Princeton. I'll give you the source also. This map is from Princeton University. Here you go.
Yes.
And it's no bigger than the state of Delaware. So what it is that we're seeing is not what it was, and you have to walk through the time. So here is the Nationality Act of 1870. You can read that.
Okay, let me just send a test. Okay, there we go. I have it. And
you can find that in law. You can find that in law. You can look it up for yourself, but that's just for the quick view of the audience right now. And let me find that Princeton map of Africa for you. One more.
I'm reading it now. Free white persons referred to in Naturalization Act as amended by Act July 14, 1870 as meaning naturally given to it when first used in Stat 103C3, meaning all persons belong to the European races, then commonly counted as white, and their descendants, including such descendants in other countries to which they have emigrated. It includes all Europeans, Jews, more or less intermittent, so on and so forth. I'll have to read this article. Definitely read this some more to get into it. Because this is a research I'm writing. There's a book that I'm working on. The book, my research at Georgetown, reimagining peoples within critical race theory, not thinking race, but moving away from a victim approach to a hero approach, because of what many theorists are now, Black scholars are now writing, and urban Indian scholars are writing and finding out information about what really happened in the past. Of course, there is a drive away from that. What success do you think you will have in your efforts because there are people who might brand you as disruptors. There are people who might brand you as, people might say, oh, that's nonsense. How do you respond, and what are the takeaways?
Well, I tell you, I tell people all the time, if you can tell me 20,000 years ago how many animals Hatshepsut had in her zoo, tell me about your third great grandparents.
Yes.
Can you tell me anything about your family 100 years ago? What did they grow? Were they farmers? Did they invent anything? Do they have a patent? Are they responsible for creating something that the whole world utilizes and gives other people credit for?
Yes.
What were your folks doing? That's the fascinating conversation that people don't want to talk about. And they'll have to get a jump start because they've been programmed to accept different things to substitute for what their actual familial ties and history is. For those not afraid to embrace it, it's going to be all of the information compiled. You know how you can open up the book of Matthew and you can see all of Jesus's generations from himself all the way back to Adam. Wouldn't you like to be responsible for having that information for the future generations to be able to go back historically and look and see a book of their, people that contributed to them being here?
Wow, this is quite powerful. This is powerful. I'm thinking of a restitution case that's happening right now in Haiti. I'm going to allude to it again. And earlier I said that I had the executive director for the Institute for Justice, Democracy and Haiti, Brian Concanen, talking about what their work in Haiti. The former prime minister of Haiti, or president of Haiti, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, was in 1999 up to 2004 before he was abducted. He was putting against a legal case against France, saying that they illegally paid France billions of dollars because they had to pay France because when they got independence, when Haiti got independence, their independence weren't recognized. They had to pay them. Say, well, they took our land, or the land. In a sense, it was saying they had to pay them because the land didn't belong to the Haitians. Land belonged to, but now they're putting a legal argument. And I think France has come out to say, yes, we acknowledge that it was wrong. We should not have done that. But at the time that they're still short. There is an international court of justice, and there are several legal ways that they're going about trying to recoup funds. But my understanding is that it's difficult to come up with this claim. And I'm thinking because there's a restitution part of your petition. Tell me about the restitution part of this petition. Does it involve a claim? Once you have established identity, what is this? What's the restitution aspect of your efforts? What does that involve? What does that look like?
Okay, so I'll just use the example of Haiti that as a political strategist and legist, right? As far as Haiti is concerned, Haiti had a royal family that had nothing to do with Europeans. There's a quest as late as 1850s. Haiti had a princess, a queen. They had a royal line. And if you give me a second, I'll be able to provide that to you for your own reference. Beautiful family, and they definitely have blood ties. Same thing with Nanny and Cujo. They have thousands and thousands of acres that I'm sure they're trying to build commercial property on top of. These natural habitats, I'm sure they're destroying the minerals, and the people that are surrounding that are in poverty have no idea that they are ancestrally tied to that land and supposed to be free of taxes, oppression, and all sorts of things, right? Now, Haiti, with their constitution, there is some things that were changed in 1987 after they got rid of Duvalier, right? But the Haitian constitution before that was unmanipulated all the way back to 1804. Now, what's the history and the bloodline people of these people that would be entitled, right? They have now forgotten their identity and probably call themselves something outside of who it was that they were in this time in antiquity. So that not only in Haiti are they related to the Natchez Indians, because in 1730s, all the way up until the 1790s, the French that encroached in the Louisiana territory had problems with these particular Indians, and they sent them off to their other colonies across the water, such as Haiti. Haiti was also one of the choices for them to send American Indians to that were now free and may have been entitled to land and also had to have it ceded. They would ship them into the Caribbean, into their other territories, right? And Haiti was one of them. So you had an option to go. Specifically, the people of North Carolina were offered to go to Haiti. They were offered Liberia or the British Company of Sierra Leone. So more people were sent out as slaves and colonizers, right? Let's just keep it real, and colonizers, than slaves ever came into North America. I repeat, more American Indians left out of these Americas, and I mean North America, South America, Central America,
And went
than
to the
any
Caribbean
people
as part of
ever
this.
came in.
Yeah, there was a lot of
The
and
Caribbean was
that
part
is
of the
true.
they were part of the intra-American slave trade.
Yes.
Who are those royal families? There's documentation, and I can't wait. We have a Jamaican genealogy bill coming up. Their constitution is very oppressive. It needs to be done over, but the people have to identify who they are.
Yes.
Fortunately for Haiti, their constitution is much like the US Constitution, and there is a lot that they can do, but they have to style themselves as we the people. That's what it says. We the people. What does that mean to them? Who are the people they're talking about?
Yes. We talk about when a society is set up when you study when you study sociology and you talk about in whose interest. In whose interest. And when you start to study in whose interest, then you start to look at it. This is great. I don't want this podcast to be too long. I have several questions that I want to ask and get deep into. But we're going to stop there just for a moment, and we're going to pick up the conversation later. But there are some things that you are doing that people can get involved in. Tell me a little bit about that. Say, for example, there's the Tulsa, Oklahoma event coming up. There are other events that you have coming up, the petition that's come. Tell us a little bit about that, how people can get involved.
Absolutely. So next week, Wednesday, the 31st of May at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Yes, that's 4:30 p.m. Pacific. We'll be doing an event called Beyond the Black Smoke. And it'll be a glimpse and discussion around Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the bombing, as well as the genealogical aspects. We'll be joined by one of our colleagues, Mr. Waltho Wallace Wesley, who currently lives in Oklahoma. And Mr. Waltho will be walking us through the actual events that took place. And a lot of times when folks say Tulsa, they equate it to Black Wall Street, but they really don't understand that, the state of Oklahoma didn't become Oklahoma until 1907. Until then, it was strictly referred to as Indian Territory. Now, there were additional names that were being considered, but Oklahoma was the corporate entity name that they decided, and that Tulsa is actually on, I believe, Creek land. So to even call it Black Wall Street is, a misnomer when it's on Indian territory. So we will unpack that along with on the ground kind of like expertise and cultural understanding from Mr. Waltho. So we're asking folks to go to www.urbanindianheritage.society.org to get that information in the register. As well as there, you will find the petition for misclassified North Americans. Whether you are an American Indian in the current modern day 48, an American Indian from Central America or the Caribbean or South America or Canada, which of course is South America.
Thank you for saying that, because I tell my students we are all Americans. We are all American. I'm from Jamaica, but I'm an American now, but sorry, I live in the U.S., the mainland of the U.S., but I'm from Jamaica. But I said we are all Americans, and there is something with this land. Okay, it's quite interesting that there's something I just wanted to interject quickly and said, people talk about the nation within the nation, and they may ask, what are you trying to do? Set up a nation within the nation? Is that possible? But you can answer that in a second. But I want to talk, the effort to dilute, there are people who you can identify as any race or any ethnicity, but you cannot identify as an American Indian or an urban Indian. I mean, is that true? And if it is true, why is that so? You can identify as black, white, Mexican, whatever, but to identify as an urban Indian or an American Indian, it is legislation, it is politics. In a sense, it is scientific. You have to meet these codes, and there has to be some legal and political determination. Am I right? And is that the correct thing to say?
Yes, it is. And boy, have they commercialized and used nepotism in order to perpetuate these egregious acts against the natural people. So as we complete this Tulsa drop, what we're going to mention is the fact that the people there from the 5 civilized tribes and the people of the Dawes Acts, we know about the $5 Indians. They've never been prosecuted. This is something that they've never had a vocal grievance about what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's always been attributed to Black Wall Street, when in all actuality, it's always been part of the original Indian reservations, right? And those people that are there in Oklahoma, amongst those 5 civilized tribes that have benefited from that fraud that took place a century ago, those descendants are still eating off of the benefits of the people that were misclassified. They don't relate back, and they can't trace their family lines back to the rest of us. So politically, we've all been able, and they're doing this across the globe. It's not just here. They have federally recognized tribes in Africa too. If you look up the 44th tribe of Kenya, they are people that are of Hindustan, Bharat, aka India, not from Kenya.
Yes.
So it is definitely politics, and they have protected status, and the Kamba people, who are the original people of those lands, are shut out.
But the thing is, if I think I understand what the problem is. I think I know what's going on. If you claim if you claim that you are the original, if you claim that you are a native, that means you have standing. It means you have jurisdiction. It means you can file a legal claim. It means that those who have gotten gain and wealth, and people can file a claim against the U.S. government or any people about land or whatever the case. They can go and reclaim land and so on and so forth. Do you think that is part of the challenge and the problem?
Absolutely. Absolutely. People have raised their generations to perpetuate the lie. And it's unfortunate. Just the same way we've been lied to, the people that have enjoyed privilege have been lied to as well, right? Mm-hmm. In all consideration. However, the truth is what's going to set us free. There's really no compensation outside of the land. They do not have enough money to pay us for hiding our heritage and ancestry and everything, ethnocide, genocide, and policide, right at the tip of our nose, right? And with that being said, it's important for all oppressed people, not irrespective if you have American Indian ancestry or not. It is important that you know who your grandmother's grandmother's grandmother is, because the rest of these people are taking their place, taking their names, and they're using your land, and they're shutting you out, telling you don't have anything.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it's other places outside of the United States, we have fresh faces in our face, right? They have inserted themselves in every position. Pale people have been able to make themselves the minority, right? You have politicians that is born a white male that now considers himself an American Indian lesbian woman, and he's married to a woman and has children. So if he can create himself to make himself a minority and win Women of the Year, but you still can't be an American Indian anywhere here in the Americas.
Oh wow, this is powerful, guys. This is what we're gonna stop right here. This is how we will end. But we will ask you guys: is there any other event that you guys are having? I know there's one on the 31st of May, and then there's one on the 4th of July or something. What's happening? No, the 4th of July is something. I'm thinking about something else. But there's something happening in July, my birth month. What's going on in July?
Well, June 3rd, we have Introduction to Jamaican Genealogy.
That's what it is.
And that's going to be a loaded class. I am so excited. I have so much information to share, for people to want to start their family tree and start digging and trolling your ancestors. Private investigating your own family for details and clues about what they grew, what their conditions were, what the political climate was surrounding them during this time, why they made certain decisions, did they own anything, are you heirs, all sorts of cool things, how to find this information, even down to who was on the Free People of Color list, right? Because everybody just has this myth that they were all slaves. Absolutely not true. I have some information about General Sligo, who's the governor in the 1760s, and just all sorts of different caveats about Jamaican history that may not be broadcasted, and some of the migration patterns between Cuba, Panama, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico, and the relationship of the Arawaks and the Tainos, some of the language that's used right now, and they tell you don't have any language. Let me tell you, this pidgin English that we have here in the Americas, if Latin, the etymology of Latin tells you that it pertains to the Americas, there is no ancient Roman, there is no ancient Greek. We have taught people the trade languages how to communicate with us. Fascinating history with the Jamaican military, long-standing, all sorts of wonderful details, so people can restore some pride back to their family. You don't have to look for external things to be your hero. External people, the people that you related to, your history for you and yours is fascinating, and it should be told before somebody else tells it.
Oh, well, we're gonna do a book together. I wrote a book, but more looking at the economics. I would love to. But look at not the identity. I looked at the economics. I was more looking at the socio-economic, the strategy. Why Jamaica and the countries of the global South are dependent capitalist nations. But now you're talking about some really nice, deep stuff that we should get involved in. This is, by the way, I learned something about my history, and we're gonna have Nolan end with the last word. But just before Nolan, my name is Mackenzie, but I have a Cuban heritage, but I have my grand on the father's side, but my grandmom on my mom's side, she's maroon. She lived in the mountains, and I learned some interesting. My great granddad went to Cuba and met this and Scott. It was just crazy when you learn about the dynamics of my history. I have some Cuba and maroons. It's great, but I don't know if there's any African in my family, but there is maroon. We had in terms of African heritage but it's just when you start to study it, and you know what, I would love to I teach a Caribbean thought class. The next course, the summer semester starts June 25th, and I would love to have you guys there. I would love to have you guys to do a session talking about American heritage, or urban Indian heritage in Jamaica. That would be great. I would love to do. I'm going to do a course at one of the classes is going to be identity, and you guys will be the lecturers. You guys will come to the class and facilitate that. I will open it to everybody too. But that would be great, right? I
would absolutely love to. Yes, Ronaldo, that sounds fantastic. I would love to. Thank you.
And we're going to open it up not only to the people, not to the person in my class, but we're going to open it to the entire Jamaica Theological Seminary and to all of Jamaica and to anyone. The last time we had a session like that, with John Castro coming on, and then the thing about Haiti, we opened up to the entire school, the lecturers and the faculty, and they all participated. We are going to open this up later on in June or July. We're gonna invite you back, and we're gonna do a lecture, and you guys will get to present to the class in July. I would love that. Yes. Okay, you hear that, JTS? Jamaica and all of Jamaica and Andrew. And Andrew Holness, and I think Andrew Holness is part of that. He's the Prime Minister of Jamaica. I was his senior advisor many years ago. He looks, sorry, I should not say that, but I believe he's from the urban Indian heritage. But but you have the last word, Nolan, and then we'll wrap up. Nolan, yes sir, Dr. Nolan Fontaine. And Phoenix, I know you do other stuff that we didn't get into what you do outside of the heritage, outside of the Indian heritage. Your credentialing and so on. We didn't talk about that because you're deep.
I am an author. Let me see. I'm a grandmother now, a mother, a daughter, a sister. I'm definitely my family's record keeper. Totally the historian, civil rights activist, political strategist, legist. I have many hats. I'm here for the people. I love the history and culture of everybody, respect grandma and grandpa. Firm believer that it's all important. And these are the things, the elements that are missing to unlock oppression for everyone. I'm just happy to be here.
What's the name of your book? I didn't know you had a book. What's the name of your book?
Yes, I did. It was the misclassification, the implications and ramifications of the American Negro from 1492 to 1968.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
The implications and ramifications of the American Negro identity from 1492 to 1968.
Great. I need to add that to the syllabus. I need to add that to the syllabus
Yeah.
for the students to get that
Yes. So
great.
right now, we also have the political strategy that we're looking to have, the American Indian Inclusion Act. So we were able to do that with the factual information. We're looking to have a conversation with Congress ultimately, and there's family here. We are 6 degrees of separation. We can prove that some of these treaties here included some of the Caribbean islands and American Indians thereof too. So we're looking to connect. At one point, we had the Pan American Games. We've also had the intra-America treaties that we can't activate because everybody in the Americas is off separate in their nationality, right? Instead of knowing who their history is, especially for the people that have the tangible bloodline American Indian history throughout the Americas, we're supposed to be linking up. We're supposed to be our own union, our own United States, our own nations.
That is that Phoenix Moon. Powerful lady. And you know, we need to also think about no, this is where Dr. Nolan comes in. He's an educator. He, in fact, one of his I think his dissertation is about developing curriculum. We have to think about developing curriculum. And I'm working on, I teach Caribbean thought. I need to adjust Caribbean thought curriculum. We need to work together. I need to adjust it. I need to adjust the curriculum. We need to write a book and do an academic journal published every year talking about Caribbean thought. That's one of the ways we can recapture some of the schools, Black academics, some of the schools in the Caribbean and here. We need to look at the curriculum and how we can build some of these things, the books that you write, and we need to do academic journals, regular show, talking and bombarding people about this. This is very important because I'm learning some of the stuff I know is by coming here to the US. I'm like, what? I know more about some more about my history by being here. You know what I mean? Why is it that I'm not exposed? Why is people are not exposed? You know, and I did a bachelor's. I did 2 bachelors in Jamaica. And I was working on my master's of philosophy in Jamaica before I came here. And I still didn't know a lot. You're exposed to European history. You're exposed. And they love the Queen and England. Ridiculous. But Nolan, you have the last word.
Well, one of the last push that I want to encourage folks to, you know, that they can be a part of actively is signing the petition, and first reading the petition, of course, before you sign it, as all things, but of course, reading the petition, signing the petition, and sharing the petition. At last glance, I believe that the petition was around 8,023. We are hoping to get that to 10K before the end of next month. And of course, we are in conversations with AAIP on next steps of really trying to get situated before this 2024 election. So within the next few weeks, maybe within even the next few days, you'll be getting to start seeing more plans of what UIHS and AIPP have going on in tandem in terms of events. But the most informative way to kind of stay up to date with what we're doing is via our social media and through the UIHS website, urbanindianheritagesociety.org. Lastly, don't forget, next month we're having our paternal genealogy event right after Jamaican genealogy, which is called Dancing with My Father. And Phoenix, do you have the date on that?
That is going to be on Thursday, June 15th, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time.
I have no pen. Wow, that is one day after my birthday. So I'll be there.
Happy birthday, Ronaldo.
Thank you. Yes. I'm going to be 44.
Well, look, a day over 24, brother. Keep doing
Yes, indeed.
I try. Yes. Wow, this is, I mean, it's all about, it's our Indian heritage.
Listen, contrary to what people may say, shout out to the Caribbean, because if they stopped calling you all West Indians, we might have slipped through. I'm telling you, West Indian never left, and that was the best thing in these historical documents, because that showed our neighbors right next to us, and it was just like, okay, stay focused. This is all of the Americas. We are all interrelated. 6 degrees of separation. Shout out to my West Indian massive.
Thank you. How can people follow you and Nolan? Nolan, were you finished, by the way?
Yeah, I was finished.
And how can people how can people follow Phoenix? What are your social media pages for Phoenix, social media pages for Nolan? How can people get a hold of you guys, and websites and contacts and so on? How can people follow you, read your work, and so on?
Phoenix? Well, it's Phoenix Moon on Instagram, and I do have Phoenix Moon on YouTube. That's primarily where I'm at. I'm also on Twitter. And I'm a different breed. I have a different perspective, but I always bring the receipts and the sources. So, I'm not the contrarian. I just stand on truth, and my position never changes. So I just want to give you that warning. But I love family, and I want people to get used to that healing, that part of the healing and the trauma. So we promote family well-being. There's a whole bunch of strangers that we do so much for, but we just turn our backs on giving our cousin $20 for whatever reason. There's something wrong with these dynamics. People look to join in cliques in different societies when we have to build our generational wealth, and we can't do it without the people that we're related to. When it comes down to committing racism is the whole family knowing how to get to the money, get to the wealth, maintain the posterity. And there's nothing wrong with people doing it. I don't care that the white man's doing it. I do care that we are not.
I said that just before you came on the phone, and I think Nolan got the end of it. I was speaking to a gentleman, and that's exactly what I said to him. We do not know, as African American or people of color or Indians or whatever, we do not know how to build generational wealth, or we are not building generational wealth. We're just not. We're all over the place doing our own thing. We have to learn to come together, and by doing, and that's one of the efforts that you guys are working on. Help restoring that heritage, restoring that identity, so that people can. This is good. And Nolan.
Social media for me, of course, lead in Urban Indian Heritage Society on Facebook, Urban Indian Heritage Society on Instagram, UIHS.org on Twitter, as well as UIHS Papoose on YouTube. For me, respectively.
Oh, it's Papoose? P-A-P-U-S?
Papoose, I believe. But you can.
I was trying to find you. That's why I was trying to find you on YouTube. So I look for that. UIHS Papoose.
I believe so. Yes.
Right. Okay.
For me personally, I'm on Instagram, Brains and Brawn 1914. Also on TikTok as Brains and Brawn 1914. On Twitter, I am very active, and I talk a lot political, sociological, and American Indian stuff on Twitter. I'm Brains and Brawn 1 on there. They call me Corn Pop on there. So you see,
Brains and Brawn, and we follow you, and we've been posting up, and you're also on Facebook at Brains and Brawn 07. Yes.
You can find me by my name on Facebook. I'm Nolan else.
Brains and Brawn 07, because I have a lot of followers on Facebook, more than anything else. That's where although I'm now on Twitter, but no, I mean I have a lot of followers, and I've been trying. Okay, youtube.com/@. Oh, so I just got a tweet, a message. So here is the Phoenix Moon. It's https:// youtube.com/UIHS.org. That is it. Thank you so much. What about LinkedIn? Because I think I posted you guys up on LinkedIn and I couldn't find that.
I am on LinkedIn too. I am not the
Yes,
best.
you're on LinkedIn. Yes. As Dr. Nolan Fontaine.
I am. And I should be a little bit more active on there because I do get a lot of inquiries and messages. So I'll do my best to be a little bit more active on there. And we do appreciate the shout out via LinkedIn as well, just for the more politically savvy, business acumen minded.
Yes. LinkedIn is a very good group, by the way. Very good. You know, I noticed that there's a lot of algorithms that monitor your posts. So you can post something and you're like, "Wait, I haven't seen you on I haven't seen you on Facebook in a while. I haven't seen you on Twitter." I'm like, "What? I just been posting like crazy," because they're algorithms. Because of course they want you to pay or whatever the case might be. They limit what you post and so on. Especially you have something very powerful, controversial, so to speak. So they're going to monitor you. But on LinkedIn, there's not much monitoring, I believe, and you have groups. You can create your own groups, and you know there's a lot of groups, and so I mean a lot of groups, and we can take that by storm by leveraging technology. But she's Phoenix is also on Facebook at facebook.com/no-grandma.
And that's
Phoenix, I saw that. I saw that one. No grandma killers. Okay.
We always representing for the grandmoms.
Yes.
Grandpops too, but definitely the grandmoms.
Yes. And I'm gonna copy and paste all of that. Well, that's where we leave it today, guys. Thank you guys so much. We will do the show again. I will be available for the May 31st event. I can do a recording and it will be available. And also we will try to do an article of this particular show. It will be available in the NeoLiberal Journal, the NeoLiberal Commentary, the NeoLiberal Blogs, and the NeoLiberal Moral Magazine. So support us by going to anchor.fm/theneoliberal/support. Visit us at theneoliberal.com or knowledge.com. Those pages are down, but we're going to get them up shortly. But anchor.fm/theneoliberal is available and up and working. Send us your feedback. Let us know how we can improve the show. And get involved in the petition. Change.org. Get involved, sign the petition, and be ready for May 31st. And of course, for those in Jamaica going to be listening from the Caribbean who's listening to this show, June 3rd, don't miss that. And I'll talk some more about that. This is the NeoLiberal Round. We're all about serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges by making popular what was the monopoly, because that is communication. What good? Thank you guys. And then we're going to edit it from that. It was great. And I can stop the recording.